So as I mentioned before, today I want to talk about what does it mean to overcome. And if you haven't noticed from my content already, I am no longer coming to you as someone that's got it all figured out. I think when it comes to overcoming, I'm just now understanding what that actually means. As somebody that came to Christ in 2017 and reading specifically in the book of Revelation of what it means to be an overcomer, and it says to the one who overcomes, you get all these wonderful things. And it's really beautiful, and I understood that from a spiritual context, but I'm learning I did not understand it nor surrender it from a physical standpoint. I would have said in the past that to overcome meant to, and I know this sounds really extreme and not realistic, but I've told people before, when you have a fear, it sounds crazy and you know it sounds crazy, but it doesn't change that it's in you and it's trying to make its way out, no matter how crazy it sounds to other people and to yourself. You can't just stop it. It requires, basically at the end of the day, some of these things require serious deliverance from the Lord. And I would say for me, when defining what it means to overcome, I really thought it was not having any bad days with blood sugars, for example, being full of energy every day, just being able to do the things that I wanted to do and, accomplish the to-do list, be able to check it all off. And I am now redefining that. And I feel like it's ever evolving. I want to fight from a place of knowing that there's always more to obtain. And not from a striving standpoint, but rather from a perspective that I've shared briefly in other videos of like, because of Jesus, I can overcome. Because of Jesus's 39 stripes that he took on his back, I can long and seek and desire healing, because that's what he said is mine. But I don't put my hope in the healing. My hope is in him alone. But I also don't want to settle. And I'm learning that gone are the days of telling someone with a specific diagnosis, we'll use type 1 diabetes as an example, this is how you do it. Be it this is how you exercise, this is how you eat, this is how you give insulin. And most people living with type 1 diabetes knows that it's not cookie cutter, it's not one size fits all. Like, we know that. But nonetheless, there's this deep desire to be like, man, if only I can have the recipe that involves these ingredients to produce this amazing dish. I'll have it figured out, if only. And I tread lightly on everything, because to overcome for me in this season of life looks like just having peace. My friend and I have a podcast called Equipped Fellowship, and we just talk about the breakthroughs, setbacks, triumphs, victories, hardships, all the things with our walk with Jesus. And we did an episode on joy, and I told her that the Lord showed me that joy for me is peace. And I would say defining what overcoming is in this season of life is to be walking in peace. I think I would define in the past overcoming being directly related to how I saw the outcome and the fruit with the diagnosis or diabetes, or honestly everything else that I've walked out since being diagnosed. I'm still sorting through other diagnoses that are unknown and just not having energy, just every day is really hard. And I would have felt like a failure in the past because I haven't figured it out. But now I see overcoming as continuing to pursue Him in all things and being at peace. Peace has been my radar detector. That if I'm not feeling it, I need to stop what I'm doing and figure out what is trying to take my peace, what is trying to speak fear into me, what it is that I'm so holding so tightly and desiring so badly. Overcoming for me is peace. But simultaneously, I believe in different seasons of life, you have different definitions and different ways you would explain something. And I would say that my God, my Jesus, wants to define the big overcoming in His perfect will to feel good for good permanently. And so what I'm learning is having that in the back of my mind and not forgetting, while simultaneously in different seasons of life holding on to His peace, because peace creates a calm body, and a calm body can be the closest it can possibly be to homeostasis, to being balanced, to being in a healing state. So I look for that. I tap into that. I also look for joy-filled moments or create them with the things that I love. Again, my friend Nikki and I, with our podcast today, we actually recorded an episode, and it was just about the playfulness of the Lord and Jesus and how fun He is. And I was just sharing with her, like, I've been in a funk, and I realized, speaking about defining overcoming does not mean you don't have funks, right? It's really how you handle the funks that defines overcoming. So we were talking today and recording that episode, and I was telling her how just earlier today, I was like, I gotta get out of this. What do I love? I love music. I love to dance, turn on a song, meal prepping, and just go into town and having fun. And I felt a shift. And that was overcoming in that moment of not letting how I was feeling, my body was feeling, my blood sugar, not letting that take over. So I overcome by tapping into peace, and I overcome by saying, Joy, I choose you in this moment, and turn to the thing that makes me happy. And then I recorded with Nikki, and it was so good for me. It gave me the push I needed to come on here to record, to speak to you, who, you have your own life, you have your own challenges. And what's crazy is if you're watching this, you probably have a health condition, or multiple, but life doesn't stop. You still have a family to care for, or you have just family in general. You've got friends you care about. You have a job, or you're creating something. Emergencies happen. Like, life doesn't stop because we have health condition. So we really have to be mindful of how we make space for the good. Because if you don't make space for it, it's not going to show up. Because your eyes aren't open to see it. So you overcome with the peace, you overcome with joy, you overcome by letting His love into you. God is love. And isn't that enough? Shouldn't that be enough? And I've talked about on previous videos about, self-hate, and it's an interesting thing because scripture also says that you should love your neighbor as yourself. How many of us love ourselves? I also mentioned on a previous episode autoimmune, meaning like your immune system attacking your body. Well, if you're in a state of hate for yourself, why wouldn't the body attack itself? Interesting thought, like I mentioned before. But simultaneously, if scripture says to love your neighbor as yourself and you are not loving yourself, how can you love other people? And you have to love the Lord your God, which is one of the biggest barriers actually a lot of us have, because we don't realize we have a lot that we haven't surrendered to him. And simultaneously, as much as we are not aligning with loving him, his love isn't coming down because we have walls. And let me just say, as someone that has put up a lot of walls in her life and been really independent, God's love, I knew it in my head, but I didn't know it in my heart. So we need his love to come down to tell us who we are as an identity. And from there, that overflow of knowing who we are, and we sit in this love, and we're grabbing peace, and we're seeking after peace, and we're creating joy-filled moments. It goes out to others. And simultaneously, we're being transformed in our bodies. That's what overcoming is. It's loving, it's peace, it's joy. Because from that overflow of love, you can have all these other amazing fruits. It's the fruit of the spirits that I'm thinking of, which I didn't plan on, but the patience comes out. Kindness and goodness, self-control. Self-control is an interesting one that I think, especially with diabetes, but probably with a lot of diagnoses, there's some need of self-control. And it creates this tension on your journey. And at the end of the day, self-control is probably better translated, at least in my mind, as spirit control, spirit-led. And that starts from letting the love come down and come through you. So that's what I'm learning and I'm journeying, is to overcome is tapping into all of that moment by moment. And in different seasons, certain things are highlighted more. Maybe the peace, because there's chaos around you, or the joy, and you're just having all these amazing moments around you unfolding, going to see, your favorite show or hanging out with your friends. Maybe that's happening. Or you're just having phenomenal encounters with the Lord, letting you know, him showing you how much he loves you. And from that, the bigger picture of overcoming begins to unfold. It is not a moment in time where you are healed. And that's what I thought it was. You are an overcomer for staying alive, for pursuing more for yourself, and for still wanting the goodness that is yours. To those that overcome, there's so much goodness. You're still here today. You've been an overcomer. And the best is yet to come. That's what God says. But don't lose sight of the big picture. He continuously wants more and more for you. He does not want your future to be trapped in blood sugar management, or being fatigued all the time, or being depressed or anxious or racing thoughts. It's not what he wants. So don't forget that. But on the journey, grab the peace, grab the joy, dwell in the love, and see your life be a continual victory in overcoming one thing after another, and see how strong you are. It's a really sweet ride, and I'm so grateful for it.